It's Mr. Hatch. Okay, so question one. 1 in every 110 U.S. adults is incarcerated, giving America the most prisoners per population. What factors do you think have led to this large prison population in America?
Okay, well, undoubtedly, mandatory sentencing for drug possession, even if it's the Reagan era war on drugs, just say no, Nancy Reagan has created a surplus prison population. You'll find that in European countries and some Asian countries, you'll find that people who are only possessors don't get prison time if they get anything at all. And so a large part of our prison population is I think it's 1 out of 5 is related to drugs somehow.
Oh.
Yeah, 1 out of 5 people in American prisons are there because of the drug trade. Now some of them are traffickers.
Yeah.
Some of them are enforcers or henchmen that kill people. Others are street level enforcers who sell a little cocaine on the side, but mostly are in the business of hurting other people. And those people should be in jail. Those people should be in prison.
Yeah.
But a 27-year-old guy in second possession for marijuana ending 30 days in prison is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even a third offense or a fourth offense of possession of marijuana, a small amount. I mean, there's a big difference. This pen, if I possess this much marijuana, you get a fine. If I possess this much marijuana, you go to prison. So it's kind of an arbitrary thing. Drugs are bad. Drugs are always going to be bad. Drugs ruin lives. But if we're talking about prisons and why the population has grown so much, drugs are the reason.
Okay, yeah. The percent of federal prisoners held in private prisons has increased from 3% in 1999 to 19% in 2014.
Yeah, 1 out of 5, 20% almost.
Yeah. Why might the federal government or state governments contract prisons to private companies?
Because it's cheaper, and prisons represent a great liability to a state. Prisons, the liability that prisons have, if someone hangs themselves, if someone hurts themselves, they can sue the state.
Right.
You insulate yourself by saying we're going to let this private company run this prison. And for the most part, private companies do it cheaper than a government operation. I'm not saying they're good, but when you're talking about dollars and cents in a state budget, you end up with the inescapable math that says private prisons it's not better for the prisoner,
Yeah.
but it is better for the budget. And I think a lot of states, including North Carolina, have adopted the thought process of who really cares if prisoners give us a good review. If you don't like prison, don't go.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got CI Rivers, that's private.
Right.
Yep. On average, privately owned prisons charge higher rates for phone calls and outsource inmates to prisons farther from their homes than public prisons do.
Right.
How might limited contact with friends and family affect an inmate's rehabilitation?
It's devastating. Inmates who have access to friends and family, especially their parents, mom, dad, children, significant others, do significantly better in rehabilitation. There is a study that was done by the University of Minnesota, and I don't want to cite statistics, but it talks about, it was Minnesota, Iowa, University of Chicago said that if inmates who make use of the privilege of visits at least once a month tend to have more in-prison problems. It's the inmates who are in there alone with nothing to lose. And remember, wardens use visitation as discipline.
Yeah.
It's like you would, if a child, you say, take out the garbage, and the child says no, you say, okay, well then you will have no cell phone.
Yeah.
But if you take away that and you move them to a prison 300 miles away from their home, then there's no chance for their family to help in their rehabilitation. There's no carrot Wardens don't want to use the stick. They would rather use the carrot. They would rather say, if we have no write-ups in February, everybody gets to watch the Super Bowl. Guess how many write-ups they have? None.
Yeah.
So everybody can watch the Super Bowl. It's the same way. Visitation is really important. Being in your community, being in a place where people, you understand the people, you understand the guards, you understand how people talk, is really important for rehabilitation. You want to, the thing that most prisoners think is, I'm not like everybody else. I'm better, or I didn't get the education. We need to show prisoners that, look, there is a path back to redemption. There's a rehabilitation path. Let's make you an electrician and put you back into society when you can contribute.
Yeah.
Big deal. That's a big deal. Keeping prisoners near their base.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a security risk. Nobody's breaking out of prison. It's all about rehabilitation.
Yeah. Private prison corporations spend millions every year on lobbying for legislation that promotes longer sentences for convicts.
Yeah, it's a business.
Does a longer prison sentence actually make rehabilitation more likely?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I think that under structured sentencing, like we have now, we've got to follow the rules. I'm not sure whether, I'm sure psychologists were conducted, like what's an effective amount of time to rehabilitate from a armed robbery? For you, it may be 3 years. For me, it may be 20. I know that Mr. Hatch, after I spent one night in prison, one night would be enough for me.
Yeah.
It would be enough for me to go, I don't want to be here. My God, what have I done? And I would do anything I could do legally to get out of there. Good behavior, you got it, boss.
Yeah.
You want me to get an electrician degree? You got it. You want me to teach people how to read? You got it. Because I'm that type of person. I don't want to be in prison. I value my freedom. For somebody else, it may be 20 years. Maybe
Right.
people are harder than Mr. Hatch. Maybe people are tougher than other people. I'm just not willing to give up that life on the outside. That's why I don't commit crimes now. It's a great deterrent for me. I don't want to go to prison.
Yeah. Okay, so it really just depends on the person.
It really does.
Yeah.
It depends on the person. It depends on their life. For instance, if you have a family and own a home, you want to, and you break a law,
Yeah.
you want to get back to the life, but if there's nothing for you to go back to,
It's different motivation.
it's different motivations. Some people, I even have heard anecdotal evidence. I've looked at some case studies as well, where people get out of prison after a long time and they can't cope on the outside. Everybody needs a cell phone today. Well, there are people in prison who have been in prison since before cell phones were a thing in the early 90s. I mean, that's rough. That's cell phones didn't come to most people till around the 2000s. I mean, that's pretty rough to come out into society. People have been in prison since 1980, since 1970. You know?
Yeah.
Now they come out today and they go back to the Wake Forest or the Raleigh that they knew, and it's new and different. And you got to keep those people grounded. Back to your previous question, let them know about what's going on. Let them have a connection to the outside world.
Yeah.
Which the best thing you can engender in a prisoner is the desire to leave this place. I don't like it, and I'm sorry for what I did, and I'll never do it again. And I'll make up for what I did if I can. If you can do that, you are successful. And I think that can be accomplished in private for-profit prisons, but I don't know about making money on people suffering.
Right.
I've fairly deep reservations. You'd have to show me that not only can the company do it better and cheaper, but that they have real outcomes. Their outcomes are that a smaller percent of those prisoners reoffend. That would be real good data. I don't know if it's out
Yeah.
there.
There is data out there, but it's people recidivate more when they go to private.
So they're
public is better.
so that's bad.
Yeah.
So the data says the opposite of
Yeah.
what we would need it to say.
Yeah.
So that's bad. So we don't want that.
Yeah. Private prisons have been found to have higher rates of recidivism than
Right.
public prisons.
You're telling me. I would like to look those figures up for myself,
Yeah.
but I don't find that hard to believe. And if that turns out to be true, then that's bad. That's
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah. What measures can these prisons take to decrease the recidivism of their inmates?
Like I said, the very first thing that you have to do is you have to spend money in rehabilitation programs. Most people are in prison, whether it's drugs or violence, alcohol. When they get into prison, typically they get off of these substances. Now what are we going to replace them with? What we should be replacing them with is carpentry or plumbing or we should be paralegal work or whatever we can train people to do. Nursing. There's no reason in our prisons we can't train different individuals to be not registered nurses that handle drugs, but what is it at the hospital where you're not a nurse, but
I know what you're talking
you
about.
help out
I don't know
like
what
a
it's
nurse
called.
assistant?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason that those people can't be trained to do that. There's no reason that people in prison are people.
Yeah.
You know, there's another word for criminal, and it's people. I mean, people break the law. We punish them. But what happens in our current prison system is we punish them, and then we take them back out and we drop them into society exactly the same way or worse
Yeah.
than they were when they got to the prison. What we've got to do is we've got to spend the money. If you ask me if I wanted more security gates or I want a welding program is going to legitimately change people's lives.
Yeah.
A welding program will change people's lives. I mean, landscaping. Prisoners are a huge source of free, untapped labor. We have people mowing the sides of roads and picking up trash, and some do it for money, and some prisons should contribute to society. You should say, look, you know, and we're going to teach you how to use this mower. We're going to teach you how to use a motor grader. We're going to teach you how to use a bulldozer. We're going to teach you how to use a forklift, so that when they come out, they have these skills. Google certifications. Build a computer lab. People with Google certifications can work jobs like from home. They can book people on airline or cruises as travel agents, just electronic travel agents. That's what they do. Medical transcription, but you have to be taught how to do it. You have to be taught. If you want to, in a prison in North Carolina, public or private today, you can just lay on your bunk and listen to the sounds, maybe watch some TV and play cards.
Yeah.
If you want to. We should not allow that. We should say, no, you're in here. Everybody that doesn't have a GED, you're going to get that GED. We're going to turn it from prison in a cot to prison where when we let you out of here, it should be mandatory. Every warden should be focused on the number that should matter is when the people leave my prison, do they ever come back to another prison? And the best wardens should be promoted up. The ones that never have anybody come back.
Right.
I mean, and the way you do that is you train people and you give them jobs. Like I said, in order for something to be privatized, they've got to show that they can do it better. Not equal to or worse. I can pay for equal to. What's the purpose of doing this if it's equal to?
Yeah.
You got to do it better.